blast off.
That's right. And we're green, which means it's time for another episode of Red Star Roundtable, my favorite show, who I host with my two most favorite people in the entire universe. What is up, my friends? Why don't you introduce yourself to the potential five? How many people are in the world? Is it 6, 8 billion? How many? 7 billion? 7 billion? So because this is on YouTube in public, this is a potential audience of 7 billion people. So yeah, let's go around the room, introduce ourselves while I pull this up for chat.
All right, well, coming at you again, Josh Bajorquez, Grey Knights, Kill Team, Salamanders, what I do.
And who's your Blood Bowl team?
What's my what?
Who's your Blood Bowl team?
Oh, Blood Bowl. All day, Lizardman.
Lizardman. I love.
All day.
It is
now
both.
Andy got them painted up.
Yeah.
Oh, they're beautiful. They're beautiful.
I love playing his because like turn 4, you know this game is gonna go. Like if you can kill the skinks, it's gonna be a great game. If you can't get those little shits, it's gonna be a bad game.
Yeah, them skinks can move. Them skinks can move, baby.
and our other host, the Beard himself.
Will Lanston. I'm not gonna list all the crap I play, but I play stuff.
Yeah. He's
although I would say that I'd like to put my my orcs or my Skaven up against your Lizardmen in Blood Bowl. So whenever you're ready.
I'm always ready. I was born ready, baby.
I've been in full Blood Bowl mode like for a week now. I saw you guys playing last Friday, and I've been just like, oh man, give me some of that Blood Bowl.
I wasn't born ready, but I got there quick.
Dude, I haven't played 7s yet. I need to get the Death Zone, which freaking can't find anywhere. Whoa, Josh, we lost your video feed.
I saw it today, but I'm ready for that 7s.
Yeah, I've got the pitch ready to go. It's in my carrying case, and this will quickly turn into a Blood Bowl show. But yeah, I am also ready. I've got about 4 teams myself. I mean, I don't know what to say about that game other than it's probably the best tabletop game ever made, frankly.
I'd be inclined to agree, but if you're listening, that kind of brings us to another point. Next episode, Blood Bowl. Yeah,
we'll have a dedicated Blood Bowl episode, and we'll see if we can get some guests who are some OG Blood Bowl players, because that's the one thing that Blood Bowl fans stay Blood Bowl fans forever. So see if we can get some really some of Red Star's amazing OG Blood Bowl players who are super knowledgeable.
Well, now that we mentioned Blood Bowl, Simon and Jay are going to pop up out of nowhere.
I don't know if Jay comes in the chat as much, but Simon for sure. Anyways, today we are going to talk about Marvel, something that's obviously near and dear to millions of fans. But before we get into that, I want to talk about hobbying this week. Will, I know that you have been, just swimming in hobby stuff. What have you been doing?
Man, it's been I'm talking about Blood Bowl because that's what I've been doing all week. I've built 5 Blood Bowl teams this week alone. Since I'm not able to get out and play as much as I'd like, I've been trying to slowly convert my family. And I'm kind of like pay them their pity and their love. Like, hey, if you really love me, you're going to help me get a game in. So let's play Blood Bowl.
Right.
So I built a few teams to be able to let my family use to be able to play.
Have you been able to get your wife or your son to play yet?
My son was going to play with me. We just haven't had time because of baseball. We were doing playoffs all weekend. So hopefully this coming weekend we will, because it's a 4-day for us here in the States. So we will. And then I've been trying to be like, hey, wife, I watched Wonder Woman with you.
Right.
Come on. Let's do Blood Bowl.
2 hours of garbage.
Well, the first Wonder Woman I rather enjoyed. The Wonder Woman 84 was a hot mess.
I know this is not Marvel. I know it's not Marvel, but the only redeeming quality of that entire movie was Kristen Wiig.
Yes. She's awesome. Yeah, I thought she did a great job.
The only redeeming quality of that movie.
Yeah, it's not her fault. I feel bad when you have an actor who's just in a bad, like the movie itself just doesn't come together like as a whole, and it's like you have this really this great asset into it, and it's not their fault, man. But Kristen, I think she's amazing. Josh, hobbying. Have you got any hobbying in, bro?
Does buying boxes count as hobbying?
Sure. Like, what, buying boxes of what?
Well, I bought Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for MCP.
Okay.
And then I bought She-Hulk.
Okay. Copying me.
And then I went and picked up another Grey Knight Strike Squad.
That's right.
I was gonna sneak that into the MCP and not MCP. I'm sorry. I was gonna sneak that into the GT and just try and table some people with 10 Grey Knights at 200 points, but.
You better collect up those Grey Knights now, because when that book comes out here shortly,
I know.
Might be a bit scarce.
When they give those two wounds each, it'll be funny when they don't, but we'll see. I do, remember? So I was at the store with you when you picked up the aforementioned boxes. Do you remember the Marvel Crisis Protocol box that I hid? I went and picked that up the other day. I took it and put it behind a bunch of other crap.
What was it? I forget what it was.
It was Sin and Viper.
Sin and Viper.
Ah, yes.
So very excited to. I've got. I mean, like both of you, I've got so many Crisis Protocol minis. I can. I have not touched X-Men or Spider Foes or Web Slingers or Defenders. Everything else I haven't mentioned, I pretty much have a full stack team. And Wakanda, I haven't touched those. Although because I'm starting my A-Force list, I very much want Okoye and Shuri, because I need some 2 and 3 point people, because the freaking A-Force are expensive, man. But they are amazing.
I got some top-notch people. They got to be expensive.
Yeah.
You and getting She-Hulk and Valkyrie alone, that's a list by themselves.
Yeah, She-Hulk and Valkyrie are excellent. Valkyrie's being a 3 threat is actually a pretty big bargain. Angela, who I'd argue is not as good as Valkyrie, is a 5. But having her there against, we'll talk about the impressions. Josh and I got to play our first game in person. He came over to my pad and we played out on the patio.
And I ate all of your nachos.
Yeah, and he ate all the nachos. And we ordered nachos from Mama Margie's. And then we proceeded to eat the nachos. I don't look like a man who skipped an order of nachos in his life. So I remember I made a joke one time that it's like, somebody is like, have we met before? And I'm like, no, some Air Force guy. And I was like, no, we haven't met before. But I look like every San Antonian that has ever existed. You know what I mean? It's like short, chubby Hispanic guy. That's me. I'll take the part of the course.
I did put a hurt on those nachos.
Yeah.
I put a big hurt on them.
You were saying, Will?
You know what I think is funny is that you guys mentioned getting Quicksilver and Wanda and some of these other people, Sin and Viper. Nobody picked up Sinister?
No. I will pick him up for my Cabal. He looks like
he's unaffiliated.
Simon says Josh's audio is low. Let me see what I can do to fix that, my man. You guys keep talking while I do some tech work right here.
Simon, you missed it, but we're talking about Blood Bowl in 2 weeks, so get ready. And if you want to be a guest, send me a private message. But I was going to say about Sinister, because you mentioned him about Cabal. Sinister is unaffiliated, like Bucky and.
So he'll count as a member of your team. Okay. Yep. Do we know? Well, the power of the Google GTS. Google that shit. Mr. Sinister. I love, and I will, before I Google this, one of the things I will say about why I love Marvel Crisis Protocol, we're talking about Marvel today, so we're just going to jump right in to MCP. One of the things that I love is the decision to go for the comic book look, right? And not the Marvel Ultimate, which, the Marvel Ultimate line, which inspired the MCU, made the costumes more realistic, and they had like a more tactical and realistic look, like more pouches and less spandex, if that makes sense, right? Mr. Sinister's. The what now?
Do I sound any better?
Yeah, I think so. Might be on Simon's end. Anyways, I was saying that Marvel Crisis Protocol very much went for the comic book, like the OG comic book looks, the dopey Ronin, and Mr. Sinister just looking just super comic booky I love it. And then what Mysterio, just give me the comic book cheese on the tabletop. Just bring it all, and I'm here for it.
That's what I want, man. I'm looking forward to Kraven, bro. Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the Hunter is awesome. If you guys
can't wait for my Sinister 6, man.
If you've ever read Kraven's Last Hunt, oh my god, that's so good. So good.
And I'm surprised they put Lizard for the Sinister 6. So the Sinister 6 is not really going to be an affiliation in Marvel Crisis Protocol. They're just called Spider Foes. But they're releasing a lot of other people that are affiliated with the Sinister Six. So that may be an affiliation in the future. But I'm looking forward to it. I think some of those models look great. Kraven looks good. Lizard looks good. Mysterio looks like he's going to suck on the table, but he's hilarious. Like having to spend your power to be able to go against his weaker stats. I think it's iconically Mysterio.
Yes.
Agreed.
So I'm looking at Mr. Sinister's card, and he's got the 6'5" as far as health, medium movement, 4 threat, and defenses 3/3 with a mystic defense of 4, which is nice. Makes sense. He's got a lot of weird things because you hit people, and then you give them like a token, and then you can cash in those tokens to do X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, I'm not
steals their DNA to make
their DNA exactly. But he's got an area of his main spender is area asterisk, where is the range of this attack is equal to the number of genetic samples this character has, and he's got a 1 power, strength 5, beam 4. What is the beam attack on Cyclops? Do you just know off the top of your head?
I believe it's a strength 5.
Strength 5, but is it beam 4 or 3?
It's 4.
4, okay.
He's got long distance.
Yeah. And then he's got a strength 5 builder. But his strike for Sinister is range 3 as opposed to range 2. Love it. I like that. So, let me just jump into real quick the Marvel Crisis Protocol. So, Josh and I were finally able to get a game in and throw some physical dice at my place. Nachos were had, fun times were had, and while I've played it multiple times on Tabletop Simulator, just being able to get your hands on your painted minis and put them on the table was amazing. The game was everything I wanted it to be. Again, I played it on Tabletop Simulator. The game was everything I wanted it to be, and I think it's excellent. I think that if you are on the fence to get it, I think it's a great game. It reminds me a lot of Warhammer Underworlds, which is an excellent game, only marred by the cards, and then the way they did the cards. In Warhammer Underworlds, you build a deck, and then some of your cards that you want to make your team better are found in a deck that you might not want, forcing you $35 to spend that deck for that faction. You don't really want to play that faction for that one card. You know, I know that X-Wing used to do that. Like, I think Season 1 X-Wing used to do something similar. But Marvel Crisis Protocol doesn't have that mess. So, Josh, what were your first impressions of being able to throw dice with it?
Really enjoyed it. Like, I liked the low model count. The low model count was cool because we didn't have to spend a lot of time like doing force organization and shit like that. Like, so we were able to just like, as soon as we got done joking around.
Yeah, we assembled the teams like in 3 minutes.
Yeah, and as soon as we were done doing that, it was like boom. We had models on the table. We had terrain on the table within 15 minutes, and that was amazing. And then, like, just it went pretty smoothly. The back and forth was great. Like, everything just seemed to flow really well. The only complaint I have, and we talked about this already, Mike, is the tokens. I am not a fan of how many tokens are in that game. It's like, we have to have like 50 tokens for every unit. It's like, we only have 6 units. Why do I have 20 tokens next to them?
So I think Josh is mainly talking about is the damage and the power, and specifically the power. So anytime, every round, you earn a power. Some people earn more than 1 power just because they have an ability, like the Hulk, She-Hulk does, as Guardians do, just by being as Guardians. So they get 2 power tokens. You cash those tokens in to be able to use your powers, to do your attacks, to do your reactive, your innate abilities, and then that's your resource. It's your mana cost if you're, play card games. Use those, you put them away. Anytime you get hit and you take damage, you gain power equal to the damage that you get also. So you've got a lot of these tokens. And then they have like tokens that you get one little pog each power, and then they also have some for 3 and 5. So I found myself constantly going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, let me exchange these 5s for a 5-1, which is a little bit bigger.
Yeah, we were constantly
like Monopoly.
Yeah.
Like money management and Monopoly.
Money management. Not a fan. That became a complete ass whip.
Yeah, and it really bogged our game down because we only got to get 1 game in.
Yeah.
When had the tokens been simplified,
right,
we probably got to get 2 games.
So what I did was I put them in a Ziploc bag and threw them in the hobby closet with all my sprues. I bought D12s, and I think that'll be a hell of a lot easier. So it's you go. How many did I get? I went from 12 to 9. You just move it to 9. I gained 4. You move it back up. No, I'm not going to my token box, moving tokens, and bringing them out and putting them in. I'm flipping the dice. So
I definitely like that idea. I think it'll be a lot more manageable. You know, instead of having 8 to 10 tokens just sitting on your guy and trying to.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like Josh ran the Hulk and I ran She-Hulk, which both have 20 health on it. So, and they both got beat up. So you get health equal to the damage you get. Like Hulk and She-Hulk had like every round they were getting 2. You know what I mean? Every time the damage. I mean, they had like 15 tokens on them. It was absurd. It was absurd. So I think the D12s are gonna just nip it in the bud. They also have special condition tokens that didn't come up all that often. Not everybody gives you one. That shouldn't be a problem. You just put it next to the mini. You just have to remember what it does.
The special condition tokens didn't really bother me. But what I really think would help Marvel Crisis Protocol is, I know this is going to sound stupid, but kind of like on Hero Clicks, where you have the bases with the spinners, that would help a lot, like, with just power management and damage management.
Well, they sell those because they had them for Warhammer, where you just, they were little third-party ones with the little... for the health.
That I got that I think will help. Alfonso for Christmas gave me a plastic dashboard that the card for the mini sits in there, and then there's slots for tokens, and so you can put the condition tokens and stuff on the dashboard, and then have it right there with the cards instead of like following the model around or constantly having to flip it off or move it away from the card or whatever. But it's just a plastic dashboard that somebody over at Printed Meeple got off of Etsy or one of those type places, and they 3D printed it out, and that might be something to consider getting for the future moving forward, because the good thing is you'll never need more than
5
4 or 5.
4 or 5. And I've seen those on Etsy, and it's a little dashboard. You put your card in it, you got your condition slots, and they have 2 trackers that you can spin. So one's for health and one's for power. Same thing. My dice, less elegant, but clears up the card. So what we were doing was we were putting the power on the card, and again, they had so much power that you're moving the tokens off to go, how much health do I have, or how much power is this thing? Because you had tokens all over the cards, and then if you flipped, you had to push them all off, flip it. You know what I mean? It's not well thought out.
It made it convoluted.
Yeah.
And I think if we could simplify that aspect of the game, that game is...
I can't imagine that's not the number one feedback that they get, because it was evident quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if they started selling spin down, like I said, red and green, because red health and green power, like Marvel Crisis Protocol spin down dice. I love buying that kind of stuff, like for specific games, like Blood Bowl dice. Stuff like that. I love that stuff. As far as the game, I was my biggest concern is this going to be another Warcry where it was a game that looked dope, has kind of these dope rules, but then it turned out to be shallow as hell. That wasn't the case. This is a game where you get 2 activations plus your powers, innate powers and stuff like that. And it really is a game about streamlining your activations or activation optimization, as it were.
Well, also, you got to remember, like, after round 2, it came to a point where I was just taken away with it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. But there was...
it was very dominated. Like,
Yeah.
I just was able to just do more.
Well, you had... The way you ran out, you broke out and took the points, and I was like, I just want to punch something. I didn't play any objectives. I was trying to get... So for those uninitiated, the really cool thing about this game is that the missions are done by cards, and you just randomly, one player puts an extract card, and one player puts an extract and I forget the name of it, but there's 2 objectives. One of them is essentially an objective token, and the other one is a go grab it, essentially. And just like most games, there's 4 objectives in this one, and if you control that objective, you get 1 victory point. My guys, there was 1 in my deployment, 1 in Josh's deployment, real easy, and then there was 2 at the 50-yard line, on the opposite sides of the field. Josh ran out and grabbed them all. So he was sitting on 3 when I was sitting on 1, and then he picked up the objective 2, which you have to roll for, and he picked it up with freaking Hulk, so you're not going to get it back because that guy's a tank. So every round, and he didn't move from the objective, so every round he was getting 1, 2, 3 plus 2, and he ran away with it. And then I was like, I'm not going to catch up. I'm going to go kill some stuff. So the game was over quick, winning wise. But what?
It's a little unbalanced in that way, but I think that was just our first game.
Yeah.
And have we played some more games? It'll be different.
Right, and there was a lot of things that we didn't do because it was our first game. We were trying to get everything right. We didn't use our leadership abilities. A-Force's leadership ability, by having She-Hulk on there, is anytime somebody takes any damage, she can elect a member of the A-Force to gain a power, just 1 power. And you can only be affected by that once a round. So you hit Captain Marvel, she takes damage, and then I'll give Angela a token, a power token. And I could do this all over the thing. You played Avengers, and you had Captain America. Anytime you use the power, it's 1 less. It costs 1 less power in order to use it, which is freaking amazing. If we weren't using those. I used only 2 tactical cards. You didn't use any tactical cards. No big deal. But
I feel like Captain America was really strong. He was really strong in that game. He was able to put in a whole ton of work, and then I had Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier was just able to just put fire down the line, and he was just taking people out.
So Winter Soldier is a 3-threat character. It's the Hydra Winter Soldier, but he's unaffiliated, so you can take him with anybody. And he had him on a point, and he's got a range 4, I think, assault rifle. And it's only strength 4, but you get 2 activations. So you're like, you're on the point. So you're like, I'll fire, and then I'll fire again. So that's 8 dice to do damage. You get close to that SOB. He has an attack, I think that costs 3 or 4, that it's a melee attack, I think strength 6. And if you roll a wild, you automatically, at the end of that attack, get to fire off your assault rifle. So Josh had enough power with him that Captain Marvel got close. He whacked her, got the wild, shot her, and then you're like, I got another activation, I'll do it again. Captain Marvel's toast.
Well, I think that kind of brings up something that we should mention here is that MCP has its own D8s that are specific to this game.
Right.
And then there's different symbols on there. Some are blanks, and then there's crits, misses, and what hits and whatnot. and then wilds, and then certain abilities throughout the game. Say if you roll wilds, you can do this. Or as Josh was playing Captain America, he has a thing when you get to your stamina gets depleted, you flip your card, and that's your damage profile. In his damage profile, he has a thing that says, I can do this all day.
Yeah.
And he can use blanks as defends on his dice, which I think is just super cool. It's very thematic. Even the names of the abilities are super thematic, and I thought that's a cool thing. So the MCP does have its own dice, and so if you hear us say wilds, defends, attacks, or blanks, that's what we're talking about, is the specific symbols on their D8s for the game.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know it's all the same mathematically. Like, it is like, but we live in a Warhammer world where in a 40K world and Kill Team and, well, a lot of games, they have D8s or D20s. And then you start, well, the unfortunate side effect of that is you're like, start to do your statistical math in your head. And while you can do that, you can allocate the symbols in Marvel Crisis Protocol and associate them with numbers. It doesn't work that way. You're not trying to beat something. You roll face to face, and it's about successes. So if I have 6 dice that I throw my 6 dice, and then on an attack, a critical is a success, a hit is a success, and a wild is a success. The other sides of the dice are failures. And then Josh rolls his defense, and he gets successes. You subtract the successes. If the attacker has more successes than the defender, the difference is damage that is caused. If the defender has more successes than he's blocked it all, essentially. And then you can also manipulate dice with powers. Criticals allow you to add 1 to the dice pool. It's a really, I'll be honest with you, it's a beautiful system. I love it.
I like the system compared to 40K where you're rolling against a stat, because that means your opponent's doing nothing while you're doing all your stuff. But in this game, Mike and I are both actively engaged in the game while the other person is taking their turn. So it's not sit here and then you just, all right, well, I lost 6 dudes or whatever. We're rolling off every time Mike attacks my guys, or Josh is rolling off every time Mike attacks his guys, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's a good way to keep both players engaged, and there's not a lot of downtime like in 40K where you got a 20-minute turn and the only thing you're doing is making armor saves, and then you just sit there and wait for your opponent to do everything.
Yeah, just remove my models, please.
I could say this. You need more dice.
Yeah.
Then that come in the starter set.
Right. I bought an extra pack.
You have to buy an extra set.
You got to buy an extra set.
You don't have enough.
I think you get 8, and then if you buy another pack, it's another 10, and that's enough.
Yeah, I bought a extra movement, like movement counters, and then I bought an extra pack of dice. I actually think I bought 2 extra packs of dice. That way I was just like, because, I don't want to be handing things over the table the whole time.
Right.
It bogs the game down. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Let's make sure we have all the things we need.
So, yeah.
The
so I had a little dice tray, and then, so if I was attacking Josh, I rolled my 6 dice, and then I removed the non-successes, and then I just put the successes in a corner, and then Josh is like, oh, Mike's got 4 successes. And then he rolls his, and then he counts. So it was a very elegant system. And there's things in this game, didn't happen a lot with us, but there are things in the game that allow you to manipulate the dice, either of yours or your opponent's, to change them. Like there'll be a character, like Captain America, for instance. A blank is just a blank. It doesn't. It's a failure. All blanks are failures, except for Captain America, who has that ability to turn blanks into successes. So for that case, he's got more of a chance to roll a defensive success on his, which makes him tankier.
That's only in his damage profile, though. It's not in his standard starting the game. It's when he gets the shit beat out of him.
Right.
Then he can do that.
Right. And I think what's his
Let's all take a second and talk about the sculpts themselves, though.
Okay.
Because these models are freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
These models are great.
They're very simple. There are a few that you're like, what were you thinking with Star-Lord's head?
Star-Lord's is probably the worst.
Yeah, like his head is like 4 or 5 different pieces, which is just kind of ridiculous. And there's a couple that
the building on some of them is just like, what are we doing here?
Well, I think they're learning because I just got Viper and Sin, which are not the latest that came out, but the ones before, the wave before. And it is torso, arm, leg. And I'm like, thank you. It's not like for instance, Thor is face, helmet, hair, wing, and I'm like, come on, bro. You know, they model the whole damn head.
Ultron is such a pain in the ass to build. Ultron is stupid to build.
Yeah, because it's like quad, like freaking thigh. Yeah, it's his legs are nuts.
Forearms are separate for some weird reason. So I think that, you know, to your point, Mike, that bears in mind to consider that some of the older sculpts are the ones that are not super great. Ultron's in the starter box. Star-Lord is in the first wave post-starter box, and you know, things like that. But you know, even Ant-Man, who is in a much later wave, his little antennae are separate, but that's it. You know, so that's not too bad.
Daredevil?
Yeah, I was gonna say Daredevil's.
It's a pain in the ass. I lost Daredevil's head. I almost had to fucking contact. I don't remember.
Asmodee.
Yeah, I almost had to contact him because I freaking lost Daredevil's head like 3 times. I had to find him in the carpet. And I was just like, you know what?
Thing that's going around his whole body. It looks good, but that thing's gonna get broke.
It's Caesar asks, how well does Marvel CP allow for campaign games, potentially being able to play out Secret Wars? They don't have campaign rules or narrative rules at the moment.
Play out Secret Wars? That's crazy. That would be amazingly fun.
They don't have anything like that. That's not saying that you can't make something. They do have scenario games, though, that are narrative based. They got one with Ultron, and they have one that comes with Thanos in box. Thanos. So
Thanos has 2 technical iterations. You can play him without the Infinity Stones or with the Infinity Stones, but then these missions not.
Yeah.
You're playing against him, not playing with him.
Yeah, it's you assemble a team, and he's the bad guy. It's one guy. And he's fully powered up, which is pretty cool. So there are 2 scenarios. No, there's 3 scenarios. One of them, unfortunately, is tough to get. It's the Vibranium Heist that comes with the special edition Killmonger. That is based off the Marvel Cinematic Universe from Black Panther when he steals from the museum. He steals the Vibranium. That one was a Comic-Con exclusive, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the cons.
Yeah. The Killmonger sculpt might be my favorite of all.
The one in the box with Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he's freaking jacked.
He looks great.
Dude, it's Swolemonger. That dude is yoked.
But as far as trying to do like a pseudo campaign, there are no rules for advancing characters, getting new abilities, or anything like that. But I think that as a seasoned player, Caesar, you wouldn't have any problem saying, this is the story we want to play. Let's align these. We'll select our missions and say, well, this would be mission 1, mission 2, mission 3, mission 4, mission 5. And then you would play throughout the mission that way. But there's no advancement or anything like that. It would just be a sequence of missions to play thematically.
Right.
For the time being.
I don't think there's like that hard of a way to make custom missions, though.
No, not with creative.
You can't add war gear.
It's a fairly elegant system, so it wouldn't be much to select objectives and things like that to be able to play out and do the thematic or narrative storyline.
I think we're going to be so one of the things you would be at the mercy of the release schedule, but one of the things that the way they approach who gets a model is that each model and their associated card that gets released reflects a snapshot of the career of that superhero supervillain. What I'm saying is they have a Black Widow who is full Avenger Black Widow that comes in a starter set, and they have a Black Widow that is earlier in her career. She's only 2 threat with what's that Shield It's called Black Widow Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then they have Black Widow, who's full-on a member of the Avengers. They did the same for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man in the box is early Spider-Man, and then they're about to release Amazing Spider-Man. Older veteran Spider-Man.
Yeah, who's a total badass. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see old King Thor. Let's see old King Thor.
Or, this is okay. So the ultimate thing about this is this conversation what we're about to have right here, because you can't do one without the other. The reason we love this so much, I remember the first time I played it with Aaron, and we played it on Tabletop Simulator, and I've said this before on this podcast. Every time we activated a guy, like Aaron and me are like, he's activating, he's like, okay, I'm going to take Venom, dude. He's like, dude, Venom is so fucking badass. And everybody's like, yeah, he is, dude. Venom rocks. Like, I selected Venom on this team because Venom freaking rocks. And then it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take Black Panther. And I'm going to activate Black Panther. It's like, dude, freaking Black Panther's so badass. And it's like, yes, it is. And all the way down the line, right? Because I got Winter Soldier on my team because I was playing the Wakanda. And I was like, I've got freaking Winter Soldier. I got Storm. I got, like, I'm just like, this is OG. Like, I made my own affiliation, right? And
that's so badass.
Yeah.
Black Panther, Winter Soldier, Okoye.
Yep.
Storm, like straight Wakanda.
So these conversations, these obvious places that you take this to because of the love that we have for the license, and they have this license and they know what to do with it. They, first off, an Avengers Bucky Barnes is going to be made sometime down the line. That'll take a snapshot of Bucky Barnes' time as an Avenger and not in Hydra, which is what we have now. And then like a White Wolf version, right? Same with Captain America. Like
I want to see Bucky Barnes Captain America
or Bucky Barnes Captain America. Yeah.
Let me ask you boys this: what characters do you guys want to see?
Number one is a war. So it's my poster. If I could take this camera and put it's the Captain America punching Hitler. The cover. I have it as a poster.
I seen it, baby. I seen it.
Yeah, give me that Captain America. From the movies, the War Bond, where he's racing War Bond and he's wearing pajamas. Take all my money. Give me that Captain America with the like the War Bond shield type, and not the freaking vibranium one. That's the one I want.
From the company here, but while the models are great, the third-party community that is doing their own 3D print sculpts for this game are blowing my friggin' mind.
Oh yeah.
The sculpts that are coming out, the Iron Fist model that somebody did the other day is just the tits. Like, it is freaking amazing. I would even say that I like it better than the actual official model.
Oh, 100.
And I'm not telling people to scalp. I'm not telling people to go do that. But say you wanted to use your Captain America card, somebody's made the first Avenger.
Yeah.
Captain America somewhere, and you could get a 3D printed model of it and use it in this game. And what the community is doing is fantastic.
Well, the beauty of this game is that when you do those 3D printed models and the custom models, like the kit bash, if you want to call it, like you have so much to choose from, and it's also so specialized. You know what I mean? Like, so like, do you want to do symbiote Spider-Man? Like, you can make a 3D print of symbiote Spider-Man. You can do, you can do a different Juggernaut. You can do a different Magneto, like Silver Magneto. Silver Magneto looks badass, bro. Like,
yeah, I mean, it really doesn't stop, and we're here. The fans, us, are here for all of it. Like they have, they know what we have. They know what they have. So, in this second point. This game's been around for we're coming on 2 years now, or have we passed the 2-year mark? Coming on 2 years in the fall. Yeah. Pandemic or not, I haven't seen if a model, and it's only been 2 years, but like, how they do releases, there's wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and I haven't seen an early wave model box that I want that I haven't been able to get.
Well, I also think it says a lot about them as a company that, in spite of the pandemic, they have been growing exponentially. I mean, even to the point that this company that put out this little tiny rinky-dink game that nobody heard about came out of nowhere, and then now Fantasy Flight doesn't have the Star Wars rights anymore. This little company that has blown up this Marvel Crisis Protocol game is now doing all the games for Star Wars 2. And I think that says a lot that so few people have gotten to actually play this game in any extensive amount, and it's still blowing up, and it still has this huge following, and people are still playing it. And I'm going to say that as a person that I don't really read comic books. Mm-hmm. I as my son, my teenage son says, I'm a casual.
Right.
That's it. And I watch the movies, and I create.
I'm an avid comic book reader. I read lots of comic books. I have boxes and boxes of them, man.
But I think this game can appeal to all communities. Like, you don't need to be super into comics to go, that's the Toad version of the comic books, and I dig it. That's cool.
Yeah.
I think you just casually get into this game, and it might spark something in you, and you might start becoming this great collector because of that.
Right.
But you don't have to be that, I hate to say it, but fanatical to enjoy this game.
I don't think there's anybody in the starter set that you haven't been introduced to in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And granted, they're sculpted off their comics, but everybody, Ultron was in a movie, Doc Ock was in a movie, they've all been in movies. They've all been in, so if you're not a comic book reader, you've been introduced to it. Now, you're like, dude, this game is dope, and then you start, you're looking at the shelves, and you see that beautiful comic MODOK. You're like, what the hell is that? I love that. Beautiful.
I just buy the models because I like them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, straight up, I'm just like, oh, well, there's Venom. All right, he's going in the cart.
But there isn't a non-viable. People on the internet have been like, well, there's always this person does this better than this person, but like there's not somebody that's so terrible. I would say probably the worst.
Iron Man sucks.
Iron Man and Hulk probably being, unfortunately, there were early releases and stuff like that, but Iron Man will get a second.
Hulk being too strong.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is that they can always release an Incredible
Hulk or
a Gamma Hulk.
World Breaker. Can you imagine that? World Breaker Hulk?
Oh, World Breaker.
Oh, jeez. Dude, that'd be so bad. And then, again, this is my favorite part of this freaking game is like, what can they come up with? It's like, oh, dude, if they do a World Breaker Hulk, I'm like, I will buy it in 2 seconds.
All over it. When he's got like our Gladiator Hulk, when
exactly.
He's got all the armor.
Yeah,
on,
well, the World Breaker Hulk would have all the Gladiator gear. Yeah, and then like the Iron Man with whatchamacallit, Exterminus armor.
No, you're talking about the what is it called? It starts with an E. Extremis.
But like, yeah, there will be another Tony Stark, and maybe even one that's a leader of the Avengers or something or whatever.
Or Norman Osborn and the Iron Patriot.
Or yeah,
no. Let's get some freaking Dark Avengers going, dude.
General Ross.
Thunderbolts.
General Ross as Red Hulk.
That's perfect, man, because they just did the series for Winter Soldier and Falcon, and introduced what was his name? The
U.S. agent?
John Walker. Yeah, John Walker. Now we have U.S. agent, and if these guys are smart, they're gonna piggyback off all this stuff and
go. They did, yeah.
Because look at the prime example is Falcon. Falcon that's coming out is Falcon with the shield, so it's
Captain America. Yep.
And then they even painted up the War Machine model. The War Machine model that's coming out is Iron Patriot. So if they're smart, they're capitalizing on Disney.
Is that going to be the War Machine model? Is he going to be rocking the Iron Patriot armor?
The preview that they showed, if I'm not mistaken, now I may be wrong about this, because Falcon definitely has the shield. Yeah. I want to say that he was painted up as Iron Patriot. Now, does it change the game at all? No, but it's cool as shit, man. And those two were in the same pack. Those two models were in the same pack.
I want to ask you guys this: do you guys feel that MCP is competitive? Is it something that we need to be doing tournaments on?
Okay.
Because I honestly don't feel like the game is at a level where it can be competitive.
Well, that's hard to say because I've only played it the once. There is a competitive scene, and the competitive scene, you see things like they're not fluffy lists. I mean, because it's the competitive. So they will. Some people don't even take affiliation because it just might not be worth it, so on and so forth, and then and stuff. I think this is my own opinion. The competitive stuff that ruins games, and that's me. I don't like tournaments and stuff.
Being too much out going that route. Now, I'm not saying that that's right or it's wrong. That's not my thing. I've gotten out of competitive gaming years ago, but I enjoy the game too much just as is.
Yes. I would. It's so weird because like I wouldn't break affiliation. Like
that's how I feel. That's
right?
how I feel. Like if I'm gonna play X-Men.
Yes.
I'm gonna play X-Men.
Yeah.
I have all the X-Men.
Exactly. I'm not gonna play X-Men and throw Zemo in there because I love Zemo. Right.
Oh, but he's so
or
good.
just throw Zemo in there or throw.
But that's what
his name?
That's what the competitive people do.
Wong. Throw Wong in there just because Wong can do. Like every competitive list I've looked at has Wong.
Has Wong and
inside.
Shuri or Suri. Yeah.
Well, those models are too good for their two threat cost.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. So, how do you feel? Because one of the biggest complaints I've had about this company is that they're releasing affiliation lists with models that don't exist.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. It's kind of like a little, like at least I know what they're working on.
But well, I mean, I don't mind them saying, "Hey, this is coming out," but it's in an official affiliation list. But how do you feel about Colossus being X-Force and not X-Men?
I don't like that at all.
Because that's based off of the MCU, not comic book. Now, I'm not super into comic books, but last I heard, he's X-Men.
Yeah.
But he's with Daredevil in the movies, so.
Real quick, Will, I want to talk
with
to
Deadpool,
you real quick about these GW snippers.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they've been chipping, bro. Like, there's chips in these snippers, and you recommended them, and I'm like, what's going on? I might as well just go buy some Kleins. I might as well go to Home Depot and buy some Klein ones. Yeah, I got
the Kleins will mess up your model. The only problem I've ever had with these is the spring breaks. But this is like my fourth or fifth one.
Send him an invoice, Josh.
Dude,
what are you flipping? What are you? Are you clipping metal?
Yeah, I was clipping pewter.
I'm clipping Space Marines.
Oh, well, there's your problem.
Like Prime Harris.
And then
that's my problem.
Yeah, that's you need to get a real faction and stop playing.
Yeah, obligatory Space Marine hate on this show.
It wouldn't be our show if we didn't talk shit about Space Marines. But I've never had a problem with it, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just gonna go give me a
put your hair in a bob and then write a strongly worded email to GW customer service.
Karen it.
And immediately start with, "I want to speak to your manager."
I'll dye my hair blonde and comb it to the side.
Which are funny because we're at 48 minutes. Like bullet points, be damned. But I think to answer your question, Will, earlier about his affiliation, they have fixed those. For instance, Scarlet Witch was I guess she was Brotherhood, of course, as well she should be because she's the child, comic book wise. In the movies, they've never made that connection because they couldn't, because one was Fox and one was.
They didn't.
Yeah.
They
anyway, but comic book wise, obviously she's Brotherhood. As soon as the model came out, they updated the affiliation list and they put her in Avengers. So,
I'm on the fence about that.
Which is a movie on the movie.
I guess the one good thing about that is we're one box away from being able to reenact Civil War from the movie.
Right. Which works with War Machine.
But
the
movie. So as soon as Falcon and Winter Soldier come out.
That's right. Yeah, but it's the wrong Falcon, but I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that they give him the Captain America one. I just that's like a later, like if they should have give me regular Avengers Falcon and then he could have been the Captain America later.
There where you don't have to put the shield, and they're making it be no rules about the shield in the actual card.
Yeah.
So he made this be Falcon, and if you want to rock him with the shield because the show came out, then
he'll definitely have Ricochet, which is dope. That Ricochet, every time Josh used it, procced. For those that don't know what proc means, it's got a chance to. It always works.
That shit paid off for me.
Yeah, it hits two people, boom, and then free attack on the next person. No line of sight needed because he's freaking Captain America.
I would like to say now this is getting into something that doesn't exist in the game, because right now the largest model in the game is Black Dwarf. But I question, are they going to bring not necessarily Giant Man, but the grown version of Ant-Man? Because you have regular Ant-Man and the shrink version.
I think they do, don't they? Isn't that what the model is?
It's normal version and shrinked version. And the same thing with Wasp, because they both come with dual. But are we going to see Giant Man?
Hey, if you look at Wasp's card, Wasp is bad, bro.
Yeah, she's a must-take for A-Force. I might get it. I don't want to paint those, but...
Bro.
And the model's great. I like how they did the little clear plastic wings on the model. That's dope.
I had to, I primed her the other day, and I was like, wait, I can't prime these clear-ass wings? I can't even attach them to her. I gotta paint her whole thing, and then...
But that's something that the fans have been calling for, is big models, and it begs the question: are we going to see a Sentinel?
I was getting ready to say a Sentinel with a mission pack.
But would they even make a model, or would it be just two legs that you move around the table or something?
No, they should totally make a freaking giant model.
Well,
it would be great, and that would sell like hotcakes.
MCP version of a freaking knight.
Yeah. Do it. I say we're all for it.
It's a mission, though, and not something you play in your team.
Right.
So we're gonna get Sentinels and Celestials.
Yeah, I mean, or freaking Galactus. Just like this giant, beautifully comic book model. Just bring it. See, and that's that's the point. Is we're here for all of it. These are all good ideas, and Atomic Mass Games knows that these are all amazing ideas. Yeah, they don't need to pay us a consulting fee. They've already thought of this because it's fucking obvious, right? And and the fans are we're here. Take our credit cards. We want all of it.
We're gonna see it because we're awfully late in the game for no Fantastic Four models.
Yeah, they're gonna have they're gonna have to have. So here's what I would like to see. Never gonna happen, but
I'm just waiting for my Fing Fang Foom, dude.
Right, there's another one. Just get absurd. Bring all the absurd characters in. So the way they do their model releases is both smart but annoying. It is what it is. If they had a Fantastic Four box that came with all four of them, right? I would pay whatever. I mean, I don't care what it costs. I would like to do one payment and then get them all.
No, as long as they leave Reed Richards out of it, I'll pick the box up.
Because what they're going to do is they're going to separate the boxes. It'll be like Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. You're like, well, there you go. Now you've separated the boxes.
Now that's a good box.
Yeah, but now in order to get all the Fantastic Four, as opposed to what should be 2 boxes at most, is going to be 6 boxes, right? So
they did it with the X-Men, and they did it with Guardians.
They did it with X-Men.
With Ronan.
Yep.
Nebula comes with Gamora.
Yes, but at least they allow an affiliation of the game, and because this is based on the comic books and not the movies, Ronan is affiliated. So it's you can't say that the entire run of Guardians is every box you buy are all Guardians affiliated. So
you gotta buy 3 of the 4 boxes just to have one of the affiliations, because while Toad and Magneto come in a box, and Storm and Cyclops, Mystique and Beast are in a box, and who am I missing? Oh, Sabretooth and Wolverine.
Yeah, so you split the boxes.
3 or 4 boxes, and then by then you're like, one more box, and then I have all the Brotherhood.
Exactly, and they did that this intentional.
You just go out and spend $45 more, and then you're like,
right.
Now I got both actions.
Right, because if let's say you want to play X-Men, then I would go straight for the X-Men boxes. I'm not going to buy any other boxes. But in this case, you're like, well, shit, now I've got Brotherhood. I might as well just get the Brotherhood because I got half the Brotherhood, too. Yeah.
Dude, Sabretooth's card is bad, bro.
Dude, Wolverine's card is freaking bad. He's got a charge. He's got a charge. And in this game, if you have basically a move plus an attack action as your action, chef's kiss. Because
but if you look at any tier list out there, both those guys are like...
Oh, tier list they can kiss my butt. So this is a game, and then if you've ever played something that I learned quickly in, what is it, Underworlds, Warhammer Underworlds, is each character gets to activate, right? And then they get to, in this game, you get to activate, you do your activation, you get 2 actions. If you use one of your actions to get in range of somebody, that means you have one action is wasted to move to them, and then you get to attack them once. Well, they get to activate, and your ass is already right in front of them, and they get to activate twice on you to attack you twice. So having a way to be able to get there, having a way to manipulate your models so that they can get the most out of the activations is why this game isn't shallow. Because it's a puzzle that you're like, okay, I'm either going to, do X, Y, and Z, or Josh flipped Captain Marvel, right? But I go first next time. Josh knows I have to use Captain Marvel first, because if I don't activate Captain Marvel, she's flipped, she's on her harm side, she's going to get killed, right? Because he's all like, I can remove her from the table. So that forces me to have to activate her first. I got to be able to do the because I got one turn with her, right? So let's nuke her up. Let's do a card that'll have me be able to, do whatever, and then go flip somebody, which is what she was able to do. But it's got a lot of interesting scenarios, especially with the flip and the flip, because if you flip somebody when it's your opponent's turn goes first, activation, that's the best time, because they flip injured side on your activation, and then you can knock them out of the game without them having to go.
And so what Mike is talking about is that you start out with a healthy side, and then there's a damaged side.
Right.
If you're, everybody except for the 2 versions, She-Hulk and Hulk. And you can't die if you're on your healthy side. You end up
dazed,
0, and then you flip, and then you can die. So it's a good way. I thought that was an interesting mechanic to keep models from getting one-shotted.
Yeah, you can't get one-shotted. You'll get to use your model, well, for the most part.
Yeah. So I thought that was a great mechanic, and most your say your healthy side and your damaged side are most times equivocal. Sometimes you might get one extra ability, like in the case of Captain America.
Right.
But it's an interesting mechanic, but that allows you to really pay attention to order of operations and capitalizing on action economy.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Action economy. This game is all about action economy.
Right. So like what Mike is saying is that, hey, you've been damaged last turn. Now it's my go. You're on your flip side. I can kill you before you get an activation.
Exactly.
Again, that's the key, because you're going to get at least one. And so you're just not, again, it's not like 40K, which one of my biggest complaints is that, if you go second, then half your shit gets wiped off the table. And I got a knight that I never even got to use because it got nuked. And so that's an elegant way that I thought that Atomic Mass Games made it so that you get to play at least once with each model. Again, the only exception is Hulk and She-Hulk, who have 18 stamina, as opposed to 6 to 8, which is average for most heroes. And 18 is pretty rough to get rid of,
Right, yeah, they're going to, yeah. And the action economy is diverse enough to be able to use cards to manipulate things. So there are cards, I think there's one that's a Cabal affiliated card to remove an activation from somebody. So MODOK has gone. He's activated, right? So, okay, so let's say I'm playing Will, and I've activated MODOK. I've shot twice with him. And then Will's like, okay, who am I going to attack here? I'm not going to worry about MODOK because he's already gone this round. Let me knock out somebody who hasn't gone so that they can't do any damage, to prevent them from doing any damage, right? But then Cabal's like, well, I got a card. I pay X power. MODOK can activate again. You know what I mean? Or right now you can take Sin and Viper and Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight have a similar one. It's 0 power, which means it's a free cost. But as soon as they finish activating, you automatically activate their partner. So Sin goes and as long as Crossbones is within 2, he automatically activates. So imagine her punching in, right, doing some damage, and then he'll finish off with the flip. So
Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive are a great example of that.
Yeah.
I put X-Men the Animated Series on in the background.
Yeah.
So what Mike is saying is, like, say I got Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, and then I'm going against Mike. Mike says, well, he activates one guy, then I can do this in a counter, and then I go, haha, motherfucker, I'm activating both my guys because they have that ability, and then I'm gonna try to take out the guy that I think Mike's gonna activate before he gets a chance to do it, or at least damage him and flip him before he gets to do it. And I think it's a cool thing that breaks up stagnation of, we're in chess, I know, you go, I go. There's a few, kind of rabbits in your hat that you might be, a few tricks up your sleeve you might be able to pull off, like double activating somebody, or removing activations where you're like, I'm going to play this card. Now you only get 1 activation instead of 2, so you can move up, but you can't attack.
Right.
There's also characters that have the charges that it also feels like they have 3 activations.
Yes.
They get to fight again.
Fight
Valkyrie. Yeah, there's like what Josh was like, I can't remember which model, but it was like, okay, I think it might have been Angela. Like, I paid power and then I was able to do something and then charge. And then I was like, okay, well, I still got 2 activations. Josh is like, bull, how's that? I was like, well, I paid power to use this superpower that she has that ends with make a regular 0 cost attack, but it's not an action. It's an innate superpower. I still have 2 actions. You know what I mean? And usually have to spend resources. Yeah, I think that is Valkyrie. But there's also things where like Red Skull can pull you with this cosmic cube. Again, he can push somebody into like Crossbones is a melee guy, right? And like I said, you don't want to waste an activation on Crossbones, of which he gets 2, to move and attack because that's inefficient. So before him, you grab one of Josh's characters, pull them in so that he's within melee range, and then Crossbones can hit him twice.
To pay attention to those synergies within your list, that you can do those 1-2 punches and kind of capitalize on the 2 activations per activation. And it's a Mike activates a model, I activate a model, and we alternate back and forth. But if you can subvert that mechanic by getting double activations, or like you're saying, pull somebody into Crossbones or push Crossbones into somebody, like say Josh has somebody camping on an objective or about to pick up a cosmic cube or whatever, I'm going to push Crossbones into him, and now he's got to deal with Crossbones, and he doesn't get to do what he wants to do because Crossbones is going to punch him in the face. So he's got to attack him or run away.
Nobody wants to deal with Crossbones.
Yeah.
If Crossbones gets in range, he's tough.
And same with like MODOK.
My Crossbones sculpt is, I painted him badass, dog.
Yeah, mine. I put the little X.
A small movement too, or short movement. So getting him to combat is kind of hard unless your opponent's coming to you too. So you have to capitalize on Red Skull or somebody that can do out of sequence.
Right. And then,
4 crossbows.
For instance, let's say Josh took Black Widow, who's a great objective grabber. She's got stealth, so she cannot be attacked unless you're within 3 of her, as one of her just innate abilities. So she's gonna run. She's got a large movement, right? She's gonna blast out like a rocket and grab a point. MODOK has a power. I think it costs 2 or 3 or whatever. I mean, I could be wrong, but he's got a power. It's called By the Will of MODOK, right? Josh has already activated Black Widow. Black Widow's on the point. MODOK is like get off that point. You can move somebody, 2 or small, and it's like where she was on the objective, that's a victory point. Now she's not on that objective anymore, and she's already activated, so she can't get back on it.
Can't move back on.
Can't move back on. So what I'm most happy about gameplay-wise is that the gameplay loop proved that it's not a shallow. You can play it if you want to play Rock'em Sock'em Robots and run into each other like berserkers. That's happy. But you can play this and going, okay, I have a puzzle that I need to solve, and I have these powers, and then the activations are mine, and then reaction, and so on and so forth. You can definitely play it that way. And what I mean by having said all that is that it's deep enough and with a good enough system behind it that I'm very happy with the purchases and with the gameplay. Very happy with it.
One of the things that I wanted to mention before we get too far off of the gameplay is about the terrain. So the terrain in Marvel Crisis Protocol has sizes. And so it's not like 40K where a piece of terrain is a piece of terrain. Sizes are 1, 2, 3, 4, and I believe it goes up to 5. And certain characters can interact with the terrain. Like, most people can throw a 1, but some characters like Ebony Maw or Scarlet Witch can throw terrain that's a size 4, which is like the Daily Bugle shot.
Right.
So all the terrain in the game is interactable. Like, you can throw people into light poles and damage them, or throw trash cans into people and damage them, or Spider-Man can pick up cars and throw them. But some of your truly special, like higher powered ones, like Ebony Maw, can throw an entire building, and that building crashing into. I'm using Ebony Maw, and I'm throwing a building into Josh's model. That building actually does damage, so I don't have to physically cast a power or use ability on him. I can have the terrain do that. But also, when a terrain is damages a player, it's removed from the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's got dudes that are hiding behind buildings, I smash the car over his head. Now it's out of the game, and he's no longer getting defense dice to his rolls because he's hiding behind the terrain.
Right. And the cover system's pretty elegant, too. And by elegant, I mean simple. It's pretty simple. The game has 3D terrain, but it doesn't use true line of sight. If you're familiar with Kill Team Arena, it's Kill Team Arena. It's 2D, draw a line. If you can't get both lines to his sides of the bases, and he's within 2 inches of whatever is in between you, he's in cover. What does that mean? One of his defense dice is automatically, you get to turn it into a success, unless it's a skull, which you can't manipulate. So in the manipulation dice phase, if he doesn't get a success and it's not a skull, then you contain it and go, I automatically get a success. Just because you can see Rocket Raccoon, who's a size 2, behind a car who's a size 2, you do not have line of sight on him because he is size 2 and the car is size 2. If he was size 3, then you could see him like a human character is a size 3, and they're behind a car. They're not getting. They would. You could see him. You have line of sight. You'd be able to attack him. But
and the beauty of that is they even go so far as actually sculpt or print the numbers of the size of the terrain in the bottom of it. So the cars have, size 2 or 3 or whatever it is on the bottom. So there's no question about how big this terrain is.
Right.
Like the buildings have a number 4 sculpted in the bottom. So you're like,
it takes
our building's 4.
Yeah, it takes exactly. It makes it objective, which I appreciate. I mean, I could wax on and on about how solid it is. Is it one of the greatest ones? It's not Blood Bowl. I think it's a good time. I think that if you're interested in it, you definitely want it. It's, again, this is not uncommon, but you need the starter set. You get 2 great affiliations. You get all the dice, you get the rulers, and you get the cards, which you need. So you can get that anywhere between $89 to $95. And then once you're there, you automatically have Cabal and you automatically have Avengers. Avengers is really strong. If you want to add a couple things, you can get a Thor. You can get. I knew you want Hulk, but you might pass. But a Thor box and you're good to go. Like, you have a great affiliation. And then after that, you can start going for the affiliations that you want. And by affiliations, we mean the famous teams.
Thor's been paying off for me every time.
Oh, Thor's excellent.
Every time I played Thor. Every time I played Thor.
That starter box it comes with terrain in it. So
yes.
You can get play. You and a buddy can split that box, get playing day 1, because that's how easy the models go together. You have the terrain, you have the rules, you have the cards, and you have the models, you can start rolling dice, because it also comes with the aids, as Mike mentioned, the dice, the measuring sticks, the movement sticks. It's all there day one. You and your buddy can be rolling dice. And I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's a very small barrier to entry is what I'm saying.
It's an actual starter set.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, it will start you in the game. Like, we've seen a lot of 40K things that say they're starter sets, but then you got to buy supplements and all this other stuff, dice, whatever. The MCP, that's a starter set.
And if you're still not convinced, they have the bestest boy in the game, because Lockjaw is now a model.
And he will be on my list. Lockjaw.
Bestest boy, the bestest boy.
He's the bestest boy. He's a 3-threat. I just got him. I just painted him up. He can teleport somebody, I think, range 2 or 3. And you just have to be within 2 of him. It costs 3 power for him to teleport. You can only do it once around. So you basically, he teleports you. So for those like She-Hulk, who's takes some time to get up the board, or some of your other characters who don't move very fast, he's a great addition. It costs him 3 power in order to do it, but if he starts an activation and somebody's within 2 inches of him, he automatically gets 3, because I think it's like, what is this? Like, that's the name of the power, right? Like the universe's bestest boy, or like who's the good boy, or whatever, but like he gets 3 power. He essentially gets to use that every round. So,
good.
Yeah.
Get like Crystal or Black Bolt or somebody into position where they can get a good shot. This is just like the same synergies we were talking about with Red Skull and Crossbones. You can do the same thing with them, so you don't have to be that affiliation to be able to capitalize on those synergies within the game.
Right.
And then I think one of the other beautiful things about the game
do they have a Black Bolt model?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's with Medusa.
No, he's with Crystal. Because Medusa and Black Bolt and Lockjaw and Crystal.
Yeah, Lockjaw is with Crystal. Yeah, Medusa. He was asking for Medusa. He's with Black Bolt. So it's
sorry,
so 2 boxes to get all the Eternals.
But right there, 2 boxes. You got 4 models. You can be playing a game with your buddies today with 2 boxes to get in the game. Where to get those 2 boxes, it would cost you as much as a box of intercessors or whatever the case may be. So two boxes. 30 minutes built models, you're ready to start rolling dice.
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, we're at over an hour. Do we want any last minutes or?
Well, we haven't even touched on MCU or on any comics.
I'm down. We'll keep going. Okay, so let's talk about the MCU. I just did a one-on-one that I will interview with a buddy of mine who's not in Red Star, but in order to make it official, I gave him a blessing automatic. I don't know if that's within the rules, but I did it.
He's got to play a game.
And
I was like,
don't matter. Rules are made up.
I was like, we talked about movies and we talked about DC a lot, but you can't talk about DC in the Snyder Cut without talking about Marvel. These movies are something special. They are. There's no bad ones. There's some that aren't as good as others. But I think what they've accomplished, when you watch Endgame and then they get the scene where the entire cast is charging Thanos' army, and I've seen that made into a poster, and I want that poster. And you've got Ant-Man as Giant Man running. Everybody's the flyers are flying. Peter Parker is swinging. Everybody's running, and it's just this beautiful shot that took over 11 years to culminate, to get that become a reality. Is beautiful. I don't think there's ever anything else that in cinema like it, that has been able to have a plan and do it. And
I remember when I went and saw Iron Man. First time I went to Silverado 16 right there off of Bandera.
Yes, sir.
And me and my homeboys, we're fucking drunk as shit, and we went and watched Iron Man. And I was like, wait, boys, there's going to be an end scene. And when Nick Fury dropped that frickin'
Avengers Initiative? Yeah.
Yep. I was like, bet, boys, bet. This is going to be something. They're like, what are you talking about, dude? And I'm like, you never picked up a comic book, have you, dude? This is going to be great.
I think that for me, the bookend of Captain America's journey, um, I talk about this in my one-on-one interview, but the way that at the end of Endgame, all the Avengers are down, and Captain America just got the shit kicked out of him by Thanos, and his shield's broken. He's hurt, and he takes the shield and he straps it in, and he winces, and he gets up and he faces down. He's like, "I'll do this. I'm not gonna give up." And then you rewind to a Steve Rogers who's skinny, jumping on the grenade at boot, and I'm like, they get it. They get it. My favorite comic book character, like, they got it. You didn't get an angsty emo whose dad gave him a complex Superman.
So who's your favorite comic book character, Mike?
Yeah, it's Captain America, 100%. What about you, Will?
What about you, Will?
See, I think that I'm a little bit different than most folks. I really like the intelligent heroes. So like basically anybody in the Illuminati.
Right.
I really gravitate toward them, but if we're talking MCU, it's Scott Lang.
For our viewers, they might not know who the Illuminati is.
Yeah, that's a comic.
Okay, so Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange,
Professor X.
Basically everybody that is got beat up in high school, so they shot the movie off into space, which was the Hulk. So, but I gravitate towards those guys. But if we're talking MCU, it's Scott Lang, hands down.
Oh, Scott Lang in the MCU is amazing. But
that is the best thing.
I also have to give some props out to Hero Rat. Hero Rat.
He saved the universe, or he saved the yeah. If it wasn't for Hero Rat, these I one of the things that I think makes Marvel just so amazing is that they've just knocked it out of the park with these movies. That it brought it to a bigger audience. I think to everyone. Where there were lunch boxes and toys. Since I was a kid before these movies existed, but now it's grandma knows who Iron Man is.
Well, what I always say about the Marvel heroes is that they're the Olympian gods of our times. Like you hear stories like Hercules and Athena and things like that, but to us it's not Hercules and Athena, it's Captain America.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
Thor.
I think they call it.
They're our heroes, our pantheon.
Yeah, the American pantheon. It's what we've given. Yeah, while the ancient Greeks and had their own pantheon and stories, the American culture and one of the has created its own the comic book artists in these heroes, Marvel and DC.
Jack Kirby, bro.
Yeah.
God bless Jack Kirby.
Again, Marvel and DC, yeah. The Kirby. He's and to your Jack Kirby is the comic book in comic books. His stuff is weird. It's comic booky. It is going to be a challenge to bring it to two movies and go like, we're going to make you suspend your disbelief because this is about to get comic booky as hell. So.
Like Silver Surfer, dude.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to see Silver Surfer done right, bro. Like, let's see the Silver Surfer.
Hold your breath on that one.
Scott Lang. And what about you, Josh? Who's your favorite? Oh, other than Hero Rat.
Other than Hero Rat, I'm gonna have to say Thor. I've got a million Thor comics in the house right now. I love reading Thor comics, but it's either Thor or Cap.
Yeah.
It might be Cap, but
I think Cap is just so well done in the movies that like they understood who the character was, what they wanted him to be, and they didn't deviate from it. They didn't have a director come in and try to give his own interpretation, his own take on it. They didn't try to deconstruct what it is to be Captain America. They gave us the Captain America that is recognizable from beginning to end.
being Captain America is just a thing. Like, to be Captain America. There's been a lot of Captain Americas. But you always need a Captain America. Always.
But I think it also we should kind of, if we're going to talk about Captain America, talk about Captain America Civil War, not the comic book, but the movie, and to see that, you know, this infallible, perfect person and the personal struggles that he goes through.
Not infallible.
About the only family that he has, and he has to choose between one or the other, and the inner turmoil and moral confusion that he has.
Right. He always wants to do the right. He will do the right thing according to his moral compass, which is I will stand by my friend. And there was a, you know, again, the Civil War. Like, do we sign these accords? And then they're debating, and he's all like, well, what happens? Well, nations have their own interests, and he's like, what happens if we go? They stop us from going somewhere that we need to go. You know what I mean? Or send us somewhere that we shouldn't go when we're at the behest of the interests, the special interests of the United Nations and their flaw.
He's a soldier without borders. He's a soldier without borders. He has to fight for what's right. And you've seen it. He'll drop the shield.
Yeah.
If he doesn't think things are right. And he'll
keep
fighting.
It's funny, in my English comp class in college, for my final, I had to write a compare and contrast paper. So I wrote a 15-page paper about the difference between, because we had to pick a side that we were going to side with, and so I said Civil War comic book, not movie,
right?
Comic. And about how, you know, giving up civil liberty in the name of security, and made all these cultural analogies between the quantum realm and Guantanamo Bay and all this stuff. And my teacher gave me a 98. He's like, that's some apt analysis. And I was like, what the fuck, over a 98? And he goes, I don't give out 100s.
I hate that
and he's
shit.
Like, but that was top-notch writing. I was like, yeah, I'm proud of that I took something that was nerdy that I've been into since a child, and took it to college and made, you know, an actual real life thing out of it.
Real life shit, man.
Yeah,
real life. It's real life scenarios. It's real life situations.
It always has been. That's Marvel's. Marvel's always tried to portray a real life thing. X-Men is an analogy for the racism at its time. You know what I mean?
Right, but people outside of the people that participate in this hobby don't get that. To them, it's a cartoon. It's a cartoon book, and that's the end of it. There's no.
That's fine.
Real...
That's fine too. Yeah.
But what I was going to say though is that MCU, the movies, has made this secular, where something that usually only a niche group of us enjoyed has made this something that everybody can now enjoy.
Dude, the X-Men taught me when I was a child. The X-Men taught me to be inclusive. Like, to include everyone. Like, we're all a family. And the X-Men were being persecuted. And watching them being persecuted was wrong. And reading X-Men comics and seeing, like, the bad things that were happening to them just because they were different. It wasn't right. I
use the comic books to explain things to my 12-year-old son who doesn't get stuff like that. I've used the comic books to introduce him to ideas, to be able to explain them in a way that he can get it.
Exactly. That's exactly my point, man.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point.
You made mention of Civil War, and my one of my only complaints is Captain America: Civil War is actually my least favorite, just because the narrative of the movie, I feel like sitting down amongst bros and like having a conversation where like, can we just be chill for a second? It's about to get emotional, but I need everybody to be pragmatic. Failed to happen. But in the comic books, that series of which I was fortunate enough to be able to, they packaged it on the shelves as a standalone series, because when its initial run came out, it was everywhere. Like one of the stories was in Fantastic Four, another story was in X-Men, and so on and so forth. But they have them all combined now. But it jumps because it encompassed everyone. Anyways, in Civil War the comics, Peter Parker is the first one to register and to demask and they have a press conference. And then other things go tee up, and he regrets it. And who does he meet?
But then he goes back on the other side. He goes back on the other side.
But who does he meet up? He meets up with Captain, and he gives him one of the greatest comic book panels, the Tree of Liberty speech, that it doesn't matter if they say that something wrong is right, you know what I mean? Or it doesn't matter what the laws say. When somebody tells you to move, you stand there planted like the Tree of Liberty or
like a Tree of Liberty.
Yeah. And you say, no, you move. And it's just like,
no. I think that was the best part of the comic book because I am not a big fan of Tony Stark because Tony Stark then beats the shit out of Spider-Man. But the best part of that comic book is Punisher picks up him and brings him to Cap where they're hiding in the sewers. That's not the best part. The best part is the fact that Punisher is so fucking badass that he's like, I respect you, Captain, but bam, bam, fuck those dudes. And then stands there and lets Cap beat the shit out of him because just like Cap, Punisher has to stick to his convictions.
Yeah,
in
the exact opposite.
But he respects Cap so much, he lets him beat the shit out of him.
But Cap can't respect the Punisher.
Cap
can't respect
I get that, but I think that shows the duality of the people that have the same idea but choose to get there in a different way.
Exactly, 100%. They're the opposite.
100.
They actually had a not too long ago, and I don't want to go into it, but like
different.
For some reason, I'll wait for Will to get back. But for some reason, he's got like the motion to. For some reason, they've police law enforcement officers have adopted the Punisher logo, and so is Armed Forces.
Why? I don't know.
Hold on. Because Marvel,
the Punisher doesn't believe in that shit.
Yeah, so Marvel put out a strip where he meets these two cops and they've got the Punisher thing, and he fucking just jumps down their throat. He's like, if you want somebody to look up to, it's Captain America. He's like, you guys, we need you. You don't do what I do. Nobody does what I do. You know what I mean? You're not too far gone. Like, he's too far gone, and he understands it. He's the opposite. He is a 100% vigilante, whereas these law enforcement,
gold writing, man, that is solid.
So anyways, it's a pretty famous comic book thing, but like, yeah, the co-option of the Punisher thing into the armed forces and the law enforcement is troublesome, to say the least.
It's wrong. No, it's completely wrong. Because
historically, that's only because the SEALs, back when a certain Navy SEAL that's super famous, his unit adopted it, and then people climbed onto it. And I'm going to get into that because that's a vet. I have my own opinions that are different than a lot of the community. And this, you want to talk about getting canceled, that'd be a good way for us to get canceled. But that's why that happened, because one unit from a guy that was made famous, no EFOIF, they did it, and now everybody does it.
All right, bros, we are at 1 hour and 30 minutes. Do we have any last mins? Yeah, basically, I think the entire podcast was a love for Marvel. There's a current, and then to tie it all in with Red Star, there's a Marvel Crisis Protocol, the game, really just reminds you of how great the property is. It's a great game. I highly recommend you get it. Skirmish game, pretty quick game. I think it deserves a place. Personally, I think it deserves a place on your hobby shelf. 100%.
I think this is going to be the up-and-coming game, man. I think a few years from now, this is going to be the one to beat.
I hope so, because it's got a lot of potential.
I want to say this. We spent a lot of time talking about Marvel Crisis Protocol, but we didn't actually spend a lot of time talking about Marvel Comics and MCU like we wanted to. We planned to.
Yeah. Well, it all is kind of related,
I think we're going to have to do another show and deal with that. Also, I love Puerto Rican girls.
There you go. Okay. He's got a new girlfriend, so he's going to be like, hey, watch at 1 hour and 29 or 28 minutes and 50 cents for a shout out, sweetheart. So, well done.
So if you're into gaming and you haven't give comic books a try, man, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Again, I'm very casual about it. I don't collect every one, but there's a lot of good stories with good substance out there. So give it a shot, man.
Josh, last minute.
So let's just give out, if you're going to give out your favorite comic book reads for everybody, what are you going to give out? One series.
One series. Okay, so one series. I haven't read it myself, but I listened to the podcast Comics Explained, and it's the World War Hulk, and he breaks down and goes through the whole comic, the whole series of going to Sakaar, and then what happens when he comes back to Earth and World Breaker Hulk. Fascinating. I'd love to pick that up. So, but I have read Civil War. It's a little uneven in places. But if you've never read, it's not Marvel Comics, but the best piece of one of the most amazing things I've ever read was The Watchmen. There is a reason it is as heralded as it is. It is like nothing you've ever seen before. I would 100% recommend anybody get that.
Watchmen was great. I know a lot of people didn't like the movie, but I enjoyed it.
What's your comic recommendation? Yeah. What's your comic recommendation for our Red Star people?
I'd have to echo Mike, man. On both. And I know that I'm not going to sit here and say that Civil War was the best written thing ever, but it's something that I relate to, and I get to enjoy a lot of people and a lot of things that like what I was saying, real life stuff that comes forward in a digestible form. So I think it's great, and again, I'm going to echo The Watchmen too, because it's a more realistic depiction of what superheroes really be like, and the issues that would come along with that.
Who watches The Watchmen?
It really is unlike if you've never. It's the only comic book on Time's 100 novels, greatest novels of all time. It's a comic book. You ever seen like when people are like, hey, Breaking Bad is one of the best shows of all time, and you're like, fine, I'll give this a watch. And then you watch, you're like, Jesus Christ, you're right. Everybody thinks this. There's a reason why it is the seminal piece of the medium. The Watchmen comic is the seminal comic book in the entire medium for a reason.
Go ahead and say this. This is going to be my non-Marvel recommendation. My favorite comic book series that I've ever read, Why the Last Man. Why the Last Man.
I've heard that, yeah.
Listen to Uric. See what happens to Uric. Why the Last Man. And then if we're going to go Marvel Comics, I'm going to say Thor, God of Thunder. Read the God of Thunder. 100.
Awesome, man. All right, bro.
And I'll sign off on that.
All right, my friends. Thank you for another awesome night. Thank you for everybody that watched, and I hope that, as always, this is on YouTube so that you can listen to this later when you are doing some awesome hobby work. We actually, very rare, we know what we're going to be talking about next time. Next show, we'll be talking about one of the greatest games ever made, the game of Blood Bowl. Get your Bloodweiser, get your teams, get your halflings, and don't eat them because we're going to be talking about Blood Bowl. See you guys in 2 weeks, everyone.
Good night. Happy gaming.
Good.